February 19th, 1945, 3 in the morning. USS Eldorado, off the coast of Iwo Jima. Private First Class Jacklyn Lucas sits in the troop hold, with thousands of other Marines, checking his gear for the 10th time. He's 17 years old, though his enlistment papers say he's older. He lied about his age to join the Corps, forged his mother's signature, ran away from training to stow away on a ship, heading to combat because he was afraid the war would end before he could fight. Now he's about to get his wish, and he's terrified. Everyone around him is terrified, though nobody admits it. They joke and smoke and try to sleep, but nobody sleeps. Not before an amphibious assault on an island where 21,000 Japanese defenders wait in tunnels and bunkers to kill them. The island is Iwo Jima, 8 square miles of volcanic rock and black sand in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Militarily worthless except for its location 660 miles from Tokyo. Close enough that American bombers based there can reach Japan with fighter escort. Close enough that the island becomes strategically essential. Whoever controls Iwo Jima controls the air approaches to Japan. The Japanese know this, which is why they've fortified the island with 3 years of work and 21,000 soldiers ordered to fight to the death. The Americans know this, which is why they're sending 3 Marine divisions, 70,000 men. To take it, Lieutenant General Tadamichi Suribachi commands the Japanese garrison. He's a professional soldier who studied in America before the war, knows American industrial capacity and firepower, understands Japan will lose this battle and probably the war. But his orders are to inflict maximum casualties and delay the American advance as long as possible. He spent months turning Iwo Jima into fortress. Not the beach defenses that Americans expect, but deep underground network of tunnels and bunkers and caves. 11 miles of tunnels connecting defensive positions. Bunkers with 4-foot-thick reinforced concrete walls that can withstand naval bombardment. Artillery pieces hidden in caves that can fire, then pull back before counter-battery fire arrives. The American plan calls for quick victory. The island is tiny. Intelligence estimates suggest the Japanese garrison is weak and demoralized. The assault should take 4 days, maybe 5. The Marines have overwhelming firepower. Naval guns will pound the defenses. Carrier aircraft will bomb and strafe. The preliminary bombardment will destroy the Japanese positions. The Marines will land and mop up resistance. It's Tarawa or Saipan again. Tough fighting but manageable. The planners expect 10,000 casualties total, and the flag flying over Mount Suribachi within 2 days. Everything in the plan is wrong. The intelligence is wrong. The timeline is wrong. The casualty estimates are catastrophically wrong. Iwo Jima will become the bloodiest battle in Marine Corps history. 36 days of fighting that produces 26,000 American casualties, including 7,000 dead. Nearly every Japanese defender will die. The iconic photograph of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi will become the most reproduced image in history. But the flag goes up on day 5, and the fighting continues for another month. The island will consume an entire generation of Marines and leave. Psychological scars that never heal. Dawn breaks on February 19th. The bombardment begins. Hundreds of naval guns fire simultaneously. The sound is like continuous thunder. Shells scream overhead and explode across the island. Battleships Wisconsin and Missouri and others fire their 16-inch guns. Each shell weighs as much as a car. The explosions throw volcanic ash hundreds of feet into the air. The island disappears behind smoke and dust. Carrier aircraft add bombs and rockets to the bombardment. The fire is so intense that observers think nothing could survive it. Surely, the Japanese are being obliterated. The defenses are being destroyed. The landing will be unopposed. But Suribachi has prepared for this. His troops are deep underground in their tunnels. The bombardment can't reach them. The concrete bunkers absorb the hits and remain functional. The artillery pieces are pulled back into caves where naval shells can't find them. The Japanese wait patiently while the Americans waste ammunition on empty positions. They know the bombardment will end eventually, and the Marines will have to come ashore. And the killing will begin. 9 a.m. The first wave of landing craft approaches the beach. Marines crouch in the boats, watching the island get closer. The volcanic sand is black. Mount Suribachi dominates the southern end. A 550-foot extinct volcano that overlooks the entire landing area. The beaches slope steeply, which will make vehicle movement difficult. The landing craft hit the beach and the ramps drop. Marines pour out expecting to be hit by defensive fire. Instead, they meet silence. No shooting, no explosions. Just eerie quiet after hours of bombardment. They advance cautiously, wondering where the Japanese are. The black volcanic sand is worse than expected. It's not sand, but volcanic ash and cinders. It shifts under every step. Trying to run in it is like running in deep snow. Vehicles bog down immediately, their wheels spinning uselessly in the loose material. The Marines climb the beach terrace. Still no shooting. They're starting to think maybe the bombardment did work. Maybe the Japanese are all dead or shell-shocked. They spread out and advance inland. More waves land behind them. Thousands of Marines are on the beach now, concentrated in a small area. Perfect targets if someone decides to shoot at them. Suribachi waits until the beach is packed with men and vehicles and equipment. Until the Americans have committed enough force that withdrawing will be difficult. Then at his signal the Japanese open fire, every gun simultaneously. Artillery from Mount Suribachi and from the high ground on the northern end of the island. Mortar from hidden positions all over the island. Machine guns from bunkers that survived the bombardment. The fire is perfectly coordinated because the Japanese have pre-registered every target. They've spent months calculating the exact range and bearing to every square meter of beach. Their first shots are dead accurate. The Marines on the beach are caught in killing zone. Shells and mortar land among the packed formations. Men are blown apart. Equipment explodes. The volcanic sand that made movement difficult now makes digging impossible. You can't dig a foxhole in material that collapses as fast as you scoop it out. The only cover is behind knocked-out vehicles or in shell craters. Marines huddle wherever they can find protection. Return fire is ineffective because the Japanese positions are invisible, hidden in bunkers and caves. Firing then disappearing before they can be targeted. Private Lucas is on the beach in this chaos. He's not thinking about heroism or glory. He's thinking about survival. Shells are landing around him. Men are screaming. The beach is carnage. He sees Marines hit by shrapnel, blown apart by direct hits. The reality of combat is nothing like training, nothing like the movies. It's random and terrifying and incomprehensible. People die for no reason in places that seemed safe a second before. Survival is luck, not skill. He follows his training because he doesn't know what else to do. Moves when ordered, shoots at targets he can barely see. Tries not to think about dying. The first day produces 2,400 casualties. The Marines secure a beachhead barely 700 yards deep. Nowhere near the first day objectives. The flag is supposed to be on Mount Suribachi by nightfall. Instead, Suribachi's guns are still firing down on the beach. The Marines dig in for the night, knowing that Japanese counterattacks usually come after dark. They wait nervously for the screaming banzai charges that happened on other islands. But the charges don't come. Suribachi has forbidden suicidal attacks. His strategy is to kill Americans, not throw away Japanese lives in futile charges. The defensive positions will hold until overrun. Then the defenders will retreat to the next position. Every yard will cost American blood. February 20th. The Marines continue the assault. They're trying to cut the island in half. isolating Mount Suribachi from the northern defenses. The advance is measured in yards, not miles. Every bunker has to be destroyed individually. Flamethrowers and demolition charges become the primary weapons. Marines crawl close enough to bunkers to torch them or blow them up. This requires courage, bordering on insanity, because the approaches are covered by other Japanese positions. Attackers are shot before reaching their targets. The casualties mount steadily. Corpsmen work frantically to treat the wounded, but they can't keep up. Men bleed out waiting for medical attention. The flamethrower teams are essential but vulnerable. The fuel tanks on their backs make them easy targets. The Japanese concentrate fire on flamethrower operators because killing them stops the attacks on bunkers. The life expectancy of a flamethrower operator on Iwo Jima is measured in minutes. They know this, but keep volunteering because burning out bunkers is the only way to advance. The image of Marines using flamethrowers becomes iconic, but the reality is horrific. Burning Japanese alive in their positions. The screaming, the smell, the moral weight of using fire as a weapon. Soldiers who do this work carry psychological scars for life. The tunnel system creates new problems. Marines clear a bunker. Think the position is secure. Move forward. Then Japanese emerge from tunnels behind them. The bunker they cleared is occupied again. The tunnels allow Japanese to move unseen between positions, to reinforce threatened areas, to conduct small counterattacks. The Marines have to learn to blow up tunnel entrances, to seal the positions they capture. But the tunnel system is so extensive that they never find all the entrances. Fighting continues in areas supposedly cleared days earlier. February 23rd. Day 5 of the battle. Marines from the 28th Regiment reach the summit of Mount Suribachi. They've fought up the volcano's slopes for 3 days, destroying bunkers and pillboxes, taking casualties constantly. Reaching the top is triumph, but also tactical necessity. The summit overlooks the entire island. Holding it allows observation and fire support. First Lieutenant Harold Schreier leads a 40-man patrol to the top. They carry an American flag with them. At 10:20 a.m., they raise the flag on a length of pipe. The flag goes up and Marines across the island see it. Cheering erupts from the beach and the ships offshore. Joe Rosenthal is a photographer from the Associated Press. He's late getting to the summit. He missed the first flag raising, but the Marine commanders want a larger flag for visibility. They send a second flag up the mountain. Rosenthal arrives as 6 Marines raise this second flag at 12:30 p.m. He quickly sets up his camera, snaps one shot as the Marines push the pole upright. The image captures a perfect moment. 6 men straining to raise the flag. Mount Suribachi in the background. The composition is accidental, but perfect. The photograph becomes the most reproduced image in history. Wins the Pulitzer Prize, becomes a war bond poster. Inspires the Marine Corps' War Memorial in Arlington. But the flag raising doesn't end the battle. Suribachi is secure, but the rest of the island remains in Japanese hands. The northern end of Iwo Jima is riddled with defensive positions. The high ground gives the Japanese excellent observation and fields of fire. The Marines have to attack uphill against prepared positions. The casualties continue, day after day of grinding combat, clearing bunkers, destroying pillboxes. The advance is measured in yards, sometimes just feet. Men die to capture ground that looks identical to the ground they held yesterday. Private Lucas is still fighting. He's already seen more combat than most Marines see in entire deployments. On February 20th, Day 2, his unit is pinged down by Japanese fire. 2 grenades land near his position. Lucas throws himself on both grenades. One detonates, blowing him into the air. He's wounded severely but alive. The grenade didn't kill him, though. It should have. The explosion directed downward into the volcanic ash, which absorbed much of the blast. Lucas survives and will receive the Medal of Honor. The youngest Marine to receive it in World War II, he's still 17 years old. His heroism saves several Marines around him, but he'll spend the rest of his life dealing with injuries and trauma from Iwo Jima. The Japanese defenders fight with extraordinary determination. Most know they won't survive. Suribachi has ordered them to kill 10 Americans each before dying. This is their mission. They accept it. The youngest are 18 or 19. Conscripts who've been on Iwo Jima for months preparing these defenses. The oldest are veterans from China or earlier Pacific battles. All are told that surrender is unacceptable, that Americans torture and murder prisoners, that dying for the emperor is the highest honor. These beliefs shape their tactics. When positions become untenable, the defenders fight to the last man. Very few surrender. The Americans capture a few prisoners, mostly wounded who are unconscious when captured. The interrogations reveal the extent of the tunnel system and the defensive plan. But the information doesn't help much. The Marines already know they face determined enemies in strong positions. Knowing the details doesn't change the necessity of destroying each position individually. The battle continues with grinding inevitability. Attack casualties, advance a few yards, dig in. Repeat the next day. March 1945, the battle enters its second month. Marines control most of the island, but Japanese resistance continues from the northern pocket. Caves and bunkers that survived weeks of bombardment. Defenders who emerge at night to raid American positions. Mines and booby traps that kill the unwary. The fighting has lost any semblance of grand strategy. It's small unit actions, squads and platoons clearing specific positions. Sergeants and lieutenants making tactical decisions, because generals can't see what's happening from command posts. The psychological toll on the Marines is enormous. Combat stress casualties increase as the battle drags on. Men who've been fighting for weeks simply break. They can't take any more. Some freeze in combat. Others become violent and uncontrollable. Many develop the 1,000-yard stare, the empty look of men who've seen too much death. Corpsmen treat these casualties alongside the physically wounded, but there's no real treatment for combat fatigue except removal from the battle. Men are evacuated to ships offshore. Some recover and return. Others are done fighting for life. The casualty rates among junior officers and NCOs are catastrophic. Platoon commanders and squad leaders expose themselves to direct fire constantly while leading attacks. They die at rates far exceeding enlisted men. Entire companies lose all their officers and senior NCOs. Sergeants become lieutenants. Corporals become sergeants. Privates lead squads because everyone senior is dead or wounded. The Marine Corps' leadership development system is tested to destruction on Iwo Jima. Somehow it works. Young Marines step up and lead when their leaders fall. The Medal of Honor is awarded to 27 men for actions on Iwo Jima. More than any other battle in American history, 14 of the awards are posthumous. The recipients died performing the actions that earned the medal. They threw themselves on grenades. They charged machine gun positions alone. They rescued wounded comrades under fire. They held defensive positions against overwhelming attacks. These individual acts of heroism become the battle's defining characteristic. Ordinary men doing extraordinary things because the situation demanded it. Pharmacist's mate. John Bradley is a Navy corpsman attached to a Marine unit. He treats wounded men under fire throughout the battle. He's one of the 6 men in Rosenthal's famous photograph raising the flag. He's the only Navy man in the photo. Corpsmen are beloved by Marines because they run into danger to save the wounded. Bradley survives Iwo Jima but never talks about it. He tells his family almost nothing about the battle or the flag raising. The experience is too traumatic to discuss. His son will spend decades researching what his father went through, interviewing survivors, trying to understand what happened on that island. The Japanese defensive tactics evolve as the battle continues. When positions become untenable, the defenders retreat through tunnels to new positions. Sometimes they emerge behind American lines, conduct ambushes or raids, retreat back underground before counterattacks arrive. This creates paranoia among the Marines. Nowhere is truly secure. Areas supposedly cleared still contain Japanese who emerge at night. Sentries shoot at shadows. Friendly fire incidents increase. The stress of constant danger without front lines or safe areas wears down even veteran units. The flame tanks become crucial weapons. Shermans equipped with flamethrowers instead of main guns. They can project burning fuel into caves and bunkers that regular weapons can't reach. The sight of flame tanks is terrifying to defenders who know that being burned alive is likely if they don't retreat. But the flame tanks are vulnerable to Japanese anti-tank weapons. The tank crews know their priority targets. They operate with infantry support that protects them from Japanese tank hunters. The coordination between tanks and infantry becomes highly practiced through weeks of combat. The Japanese attempt several night infiltrations. Small groups trying to penetrate American lines. Attack command posts or artillery positions. These raids are mostly unsuccessful because Marine security is tight, sentries are alert. But the attempts continue because Suribachi orders aggressive defense, not passive waiting for death. A few infiltrations succeed. Japanese soldiers reach American positions and kill men before being killed themselves. These attacks keep the Marines nervous, prevent rest even in rear areas, contribute to the combat fatigue that affects everyone. March 16th, the island is declared secure. Organized Japanese resistance has ended. The flag is flying. Most of the island is under American control, but the declaration is premature. Thousands of Japanese soldiers remain alive in the tunnel systems. They continue fighting for weeks, emerging at night to raid American positions, hiding during the day in caves and tunnels. The Marines have to conduct systematic clearing operations, sealing caves, destroying bunkers, hunting down holdouts. The official end of the battle doesn't match the reality of continued combat. March 26th, the final Japanese organized attack. Suribachi leads about 300 survivors in night raid against American positions near the beaches. It's not a banzai charge. It's a carefully planned attack on specific targets. The Japanese overrun several positions before being stopped. Suribachi is believed killed in this attack, though his body is never found. He disappears into the chaos, possibly dying in a cave that's later sealed. His final message to Tokyo says he and his men have fought to the last. They've inflicted heavy casualties as ordered. They regret not doing more. Then silence. The battle officially ends March 26, 36 days of combat. The longest and bloodiest in Marine Corps history. The casualty figures are staggering. 6,821 Americans killed, 19,217 wounded. Total casualties of 26,038. This is 1/3 of the entire landing force. Units that landed at full strength are combat ineffective. Companies are down to platoon strength. Platoons are down to squad strength. Some units have 90% casualties. Every survivor is wounded physically, or psychologically, or both. The Japanese casualties are even more catastrophic. Of 21,000 defenders, 18,844 are confirmed killed. Fewer than 300 surrender during the battle. About 3,000 are unaccounted for, presumed dead in sealed caves or buried by bombardment. The Japanese fought almost to the last man as ordered. Only 216 prisoners are taken during the battle. Most are wounded and captured unconscious. Japanese soldiers who could still fight chose death over surrender. The cultural conditioning against surrender proved stronger than survival instinct. The strategic value of Iwo Jima justifies the cost according to military calculations. The island becomes base for P-51 fighters that escort B-29 bombers to Japan. The fighter protection reduces bomber losses significantly. Damaged B-29s make emergency landings on Iwo Jima's runways. Over 2,400 emergency landings save approximately 27,000 American aircrew lives. The island's value is measured in American lives saved versus American lives lost to capture it. The calculation is cold, but the math works out favorably from American perspective. But the survivors question whether any island is worth the cost. They saw their friends die for yards of volcanic rock. They killed Japanese soldiers who were just following orders like they were. The strategic justifications mean nothing to men who watch their buddies burn alive or get blown apart. The Marines who fought on Iwo Jima are proud of what they accomplished, but many wish it had never been necessary. The battle becomes defining experience of their lives, but also trauma they can never completely overcome. The flag-raising photograph becomes controversial in ways Rosenthal never anticipated. It's so perfect that conspiracy theories claim it was staged, that the flag-raising was reenacted for the camera. These accusations anger the survivors and the families of the men who died. The photograph was real. It captured a genuine moment. The second flag-raising was planned for practical reasons, not propaganda. Rosenthal just happened to be there with perfect timing. The image's power comes from its authenticity, not from staging. 3 of the 6 flag-raisers die on Iwo Jima after the photograph is taken. Harlan Block, Franklin Sousley, and Michael Strank are killed in subsequent fighting. They raised the flag on February 23rd. They died days or weeks later fighting across the same island. Their deaths demonstrate that the flag-raising wasn't the end of anything, just a moment in an ongoing battle. The photograph created hope and inspiration for people back home, but for the men in the photo it was just another day of combat with more days of combat to follow. The 3 survivors of the flag-raising, Rene Gagnon, Ira Hayes, and John Bradley, are pulled from combat and sent home to tour the country selling war bonds. They're celebrities. They appear at rallies and give speeches. They hate it. They don't feel like heroes. They just happen to be photographed raising a flag. Many men did braver things without recognition. Their friends are still fighting and dying on islands across the Pacific while they're paraded around America. Ira Hayes particularly struggles with the unwanted fame. He's Pima Indian who returns to reservation after the war, develops alcoholism, dies at 32 from exposure after passing out drunk in a ditch. His war bond tours and celebrity haunt him. He never escapes Iwo Jima. The battle's legacy in Marine Corps history is enormous. Iwo Jima becomes symbol of Marine courage and sacrifice. The flag-raising image becomes the Marine Corps' iconic symbol. Appears on recruiting posters and monuments. Every Marine knows the story. The battle validates the Corps' existence and mission, proves that Marines can take and hold any objective regardless of cost. The price paid on Iwo Jima ensures that Marine Corps will never be disbanded or absorbed into the Army. The blood of 7,000 dead Marines purchases institutional survival. The strategic debate about whether Iwo Jima needed to be taken continues. Some historians argue the island could have been bypassed, that B-29s could have reached Japan from the Marianas without Iwo Jima as a staging base, that the emergency landing value wasn't worth 26,000 casualties. Others defend the decision, noting that Iwo Jima in Japanese hands threatened B-29 operations, that the fighter escort from Iwo Jima saved thousands of bomber crew lives. That strategic decisions can't be judged purely by casualty counts. The debate is unresolvable because we can't know what would have happened if different decisions were made. The Japanese perspective on the battle receives less attention in American narratives, but is equally important. Kuribayashi's defense of Iwo Jima was masterful given the resources available. He inflicted casualties on a ratio that would have made further American amphibious assaults prohibitively costly if repeated. His tactics influenced Japanese defensive doctrine for Okinawa and the planned defense of the home islands. He died fulfilling his orders, delaying the American advance, killing as many Americans as possible. From Japanese perspective, the battle was defeat, but honorable defeat. The defenders did everything humanly possible against overwhelming force. The long-term physical and psychological costs to survivors exceed the immediate casualties. The wounded carry injuries for life: amputees, burn victims, men with shrapnel permanently lodged in their bodies. Many require ongoing medical care for decades. The VA hospitals fill with Iwo Jima veterans. Some are hospitalized for life because their injuries are too severe for independent living. Others struggle with chronic pain and disability. The medical costs of Iwo Jima continue for 50 years after the battle ends. The psychological casualties are harder to quantify, but equally significant. Thousands of Iwo Jima veterans suffer from what we now call PTSD. They have nightmares, flashbacks, difficulty adjusting to civilian life. Many self-medicate with alcohol. Suicide rates among Iwo Jima veterans exceed general population rates. Marriages fail because veterans can't discuss their experiences or relate to people who weren't there. Children grow up with fathers who are physically present but emotionally absent, traumatized by experiences they never fully process. The reunions of Iwo Jima veterans become an important part of their post-war lives, gathering annually to remember fallen comrades, to share experiences with people who understand, to maintain bonds forged in combat. These reunions help survivors process their trauma, though the process is never complete. Talking with other veterans who are there provides validation and understanding that civilians can't offer. The reunions continue for decades until age and death thin the ranks. The last survivors passing away in the 2020s. The memorials and monuments to Iwo Jima are numerous. The Marine Corps' War Memorial in Arlington is the most famous. The bronze statue of the flag raising becomes one of America's most recognizable monuments. Every Marine who sees it remembers the story. Civilian visitors learn about the battle. The memorial ensures Iwo Jima is never forgotten. Other memorials exist on Iwo Jima itself and across America. Small monuments in hometown squares honoring local men who died there. The physical reminders keep the memory alive as the survivors pass away. The return of Iwo Jima to Japanese control in 1968 creates complex emotions among American veterans. They fought and bled for that island. Their friends died there. Giving it back to Japan seems wrong to some, though. Logically, they understand that. America couldn't permanently occupy Japanese territory. Annual memorial ceremonies on Iwo Jima include both American and Japanese participants. Former enemies honoring their dead together. These ceremonies demonstrate reconciliation and mutual respect, though the pain of the battle never completely fades. Remember, Iwo Jima not just as battle or as famous photograph, but as human experience. Young men, mostly 18 to 22 years, old fighting and dying on a volcanic island for strategic objectives they barely understood. Doing their duty because they were Marines, and Marines don't quit. Watching friends die, killing enemies who were also young men following orders. Surviving 36 days of hell that left scars physical and psychological that never healed. Living the rest of their lives in the shadow of those 36 days. Remember the 6,821 Americans who died there, most of them Marines. They're buried in military cemeteries or at home. Their families received folded flags and telegrams expressing regret for their sacrifice. These men will never grow old, never. Marry, never have careers or children. Their lives ended on that volcanic rock because strategy demanded its capture. Their deaths purchased something their commanders considered valuable, but they'll never know if it was worth it. Remember the 18,844 Japanese who died defending the island? Most of them young conscripts who had no choice about being there, who followed orders to fight to the death because their culture and their commanders told them surrender was unacceptable, who died thousands of miles from home because their country's leadership started a war they couldn't win. They were enemies, but they were also victims. Their deaths served strategic delaying purposes, but didn't change the war's outcome. Remember that Iwo Jima represents amphibious assault at its most difficult and deadly, that the Marines proved they could take any position regardless of cost, but also that the cost was terrible, the 36 days of fighting for 8 square miles. A volcanic rock produced casualties that shocked even hardened commanders, that the tactical success couldn't completely overcome the terrible arithmetic of 26,000 casualties to capture one small island. This is Iwo Jima, February 19th to March 26, 1945. 36 days when 3 Marine divisions assaulted a fortress island defended by 21,000 Japanese soldiers ordered to fight to the death, when 26,000 Americans became casualties and 18,844 Japanese died, when 6 Marines raised a flag on Mount Suribachi and created the most famous photograph in history, when uncommon valor was indeed a common virtue, when young men on both sides fought and died with courage that deserves remembrance even as we hope never to repeat the necessity that brought them there.